Hello there. I'm the Wolf of 1918, and today I'm in my chair of wisdom to talk about what was that? Oh, that's already been taken. Who uses the chair of wisdom? Oh, no. I know Indy Nidell. I've met him once before. He's a cool dude. We don't want to take the risk. I'm in my folding chair today to talk about my experiences of getting called a Nazi while in uniform. Alright, so in this new series, I figure it'll be more informal, kind of. Basically, just talking about my experiences as a reenactor and things along those lines. Sort of a Q&A, a little bit, where questions that people commonly ask me are going to be answered. Whether that's about my experiences reenacting or my thoughts on certain historical events or things along those lines, that this is the format that those will now be answered in. Before I waste any more of your time, there's not going to be any videos here of people calling me a Nazi. I'm just going to be talking about my experiences. If you clicked on this video, thinking whether because of the title that I choose or because of the thumbnail that I choose that there is going to be a video attached of someone calling me a Nazi, I apologize. Leave now before any more time is wasted. If you want to stick around, cool. But if you don't because you just want to see videos of Karens calling random people Nazis, I apologize. Anyway, back on subject. Over the past 2 years of being a reenactor or someone who's pursued getting a uniform and reenacting the First World War, specifically a German, I have been called a Nazi on multiple occasions when I've worn my uniform out in public. Halloween, I was called a Nazi jokingly and in one case a little bit seriously, where someone assumed that I was wearing it because I was actually a neo-Nazi and was using it as sort of a dog whistle. But the other experiences, people were legitimately upset that I was wearing my uniform, and they actually thought that I was a Nazi, and that I was a bad person for wearing a German World War I uniform. And I want to talk about that and talk about my experiences. One of the first times that I was actually called a Nazi happened about a year ago, almost to the day. It was just a little bit under a year ago. Shoots in 1916 and I went up to Nevada City to take some photos, and just to hang out there and look at the Empire Mine that's in that area, and to go hiking around the woods. So we wore our uniforms because, well, we wanted to take some pictures. And because we were taking our pictures around this Empire Mine area, we just kept our uniforms on. And at multiple parts, I just kind of forgot that I was actually wearing it. When I was around people, I kind of became more self-aware that I was wearing a uniform some people might take as a Nazi uniform. And for the majority of the time, most people either thought that it was a Russian uniform or recognized it as World War I German. There were a couple of people who thought it was World War II German, but they generally didn't care. They were just a little curious as to why we were wearing such uniforms around a U.S. Old Western style gold mine. And when we explained what was going on, they thought it was very cool, and they just continued to ask us questions. One of the weird experiences, and one of the last experiences of that day, was we went to a blacksmith little area where a guy was doing some blacksmithing as a exhibit, and there was no one else around. It was just us and this dude, and he was super nice. He was very engaging, and he was very interested in why we were dressed the way we were, and was asking us a lot of questions. The dude was super nice, but he just talked just a little bit too much, and it was still pretty cool. And he was talking about the people who had come to the blacksmith from all over the world to his blacksmith place from all over the world. And when we mentioned the regiment we were reenacting and the main battles that they fought in Belgium and in France, he was actually talking about how people had come and talked about how they had come from those regions, and he pulled out his map book and was talking to us. Meanwhile, this lady, probably in her mid to late 40s, I'm not too sure, could have been 50s, she walks in, and generally, I've been able to tell when someone was uncomfortable when they're around me while I'm in uniform. They just give off a vibe, they take a certain stance, and they keep a certain amount of distance from me. And I was used to this at this point. When I'm in my uniform and I'm out in public for whatever reason, there's always going to be those people who do that, and it's normal to me. She She was a little bit come offish. We said hi, and she just didn't want to respond. And the blacksmith started talking to her because we were starting to move out and like just sort of we were starting to do that weird thing where you're in an area of like a location, like a museum. You're not completely done looking around and like enjoying the display, but you're sort of at that tail end where you know you're going to be leaving within the next minute, but you don't want to leave yet. That's sort of the stage we were at. And we were starting to shimmy our way out of that little display area. And the blacksmith starts talking to this lady, and it's like, oh yeah, and they're from this stuff, and they're reenacting unit from here, and he's got his atlas out, and he's like super happy. And the moment he starts bringing us up to this lady, she snaps back at him and gets super angry about it, and like talks about how it's bad that we're there in our uniform. And we take it as she just thinks that we're World War II Germans, in that we like actually believe that. And of course, there's the people who think that dressing up as a World War II German, even for reenactment, is bad. She's gone from talking to him and complaining to him to where now she's looking directly at us, and her insults and complaints have become more directed at us than the blacksmith about us. I interject, and I'm like, oh, no, we're World War I Germans. And Schützen interjects as well, saying the same thing. We're just kind of like, no, wrong war. We're World War I Germans. And she's like, that's just as bad. And we're like, we're just reenactors. Like, what are you talking about? And she just gets super frustrated. She's like, she's obviously not able to express why she's mad because she doesn't know why. And she just wants to continue being angry at us for wearing uniforms. And she just goes on a tirade, and we're just like, okay, have a nice day. And it's just super angry. You could just see that she was angry that we were there. And it was definitely an interesting experience, and I have no idea why she was so angry. It's like, lady. Shortly after I went trick-or-treating, the last time I would go trick-or-treating, I was 19. Yes. I just wanted to do it one last time with some buds, and I was dressed up in my German uniform, and with my gas mask before I had defarbed it. And that was what I was using to try to hide the facial hair, which I think was a goatee at the time. I was still getting mistaken for a World War II German soldier. Granted, I had a Stahlhelm on, so you can't really blame him for that. It was dark, whatever. And a lot of people jokingly doing the Sieg Heil. I'm not actually going to do it because that'll just get taken out of context, and someone's going to make it into something awful, and I'd rather not deal with that being on my record. Anyway, just a lot of people doing it jokingly. No one was being serious. And I go to this one house, and the person's like, they go to the door, and they're like, oh yeah, we've got German heritage. We know what you're going for. I'm like trying to explain that it's World War I, and they're like, no, I know what you're doing. They're just, being jovial about it. And this like, their grandma, like some lady in her 70s or 60s, comes out to the door, and she starts throwing a fit, and it's just like, da-da-da-da-da, like, that's horrible, blah, 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 blah. And they try to, like, push her away, but, like, she's just super angry, super mad, and, like, her husband's there trying to calm her down, just like, it's just a costume, like, it's not even World War II. And she's just super angry about it, and just trying to, like, berate me for wearing a World War II German uniform. And it's like, even if this was a World War II German uniform, why are you getting mad at me about it? It's Halloween. It's like, why? Who cares? It's like, I don't believe in that stuff. I'm wearing this because it's a costume. It's playing soldier. So that was another experience of mine. I experienced another one where I was in a antique shop trying to find a pair of, like, I forget what I was trying to find, but something for my uniform, for my impression. And I was trying to ask some questions about it, and they just thought I was just a collector of that item. I forget what it was. I think it was like a pair of spectacles that I wanted just as a personal effect. And I was asking them for a specific style and all that, and they weren't really... I don't think I didn't feel like I was getting my point across properly in terms of what I was looking for. So I basically was like, yeah, I reenact World War I Germany, a World War I German soldier, and I'm looking for something to add to my impression. I've done this a couple times at antique stores when I'm not able to describe what I'm looking for properly, and 9 times out of 10, it clicks and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this would be perfect. And they're instantly able to describe what I'm asking for and tell me if they have it or not. And a lot of the time they do. It's just that they didn't know what I was asking for. So that rabbit hole taken care of. This lady just sort of got real short with me. She was being really nice and really cordial before. The second I mentioned that, she starts to get a little upset. So I'm like, oh, no, it's World War One, because I thought she might have heard World War Two, and I show her a picture of my uniform. And again, she's just really short, if not worse now, because I showed her a picture of my uniform. And again, I think that she thought I said World War Two. And it was my uniform with the rum tunic and the Stahlhelm, my old reproduction. So it does look a little bit like a World War II uniform, if you glance at it. Or if you're not familiar with it. So I explain again, just like, World War One, not really the baddies. And she got really upset when I said that. She's like, no, they were the baddies. They were just as bad. And I'm just like, what are you talking? What? What? And she's like, she basically says, she's like, my grandfather died because of German gas on the Western Front. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, that sucks. That really sucks. But why does that make me a bad person for reenacting that? Plenty of German people do not get to meet their never got to meet their grandparents because their grandparents died fighting on the Western Front to American gas. So should they think wearing a doughboy uniform is bad? No, because that is horrible. This lady was in her 60s, obviously, or younger. So she wasn't even alive when her grandfather died. So it's like you don't even know who he was. Your anger against not being able to meet him, or your anger about him dying, is completely based around your experiences with talking to your mother or your father, whoever was directly related to him, and their anger about it. And while parents do have an influence over their children, allowing to keep that, rage about it kept for so long from your parents, that you immediately take it out on someone who wants to be your customer because they have a hobby that involves dressing up as that soldier, as a specific soldier, which was part of an army that launched a specific type of shell that ended up killing someone you never met, who was dead, who died 30 years before you were born, if not more, 30 to 40 years before you were born. That's some serious petty grudge. And she was just insinuating that me dressing up as a World War I German soldier was just as bad as dressing up and holding the same beliefs as a Nazi. Or just, that both were equally bad. It's just an insane train of logic there that you feel like it left the tracks, that derailed and left the tracks, 10 miles ago, and is just bouncing along a broken down country road and somehow hasn't exploded yet. Now, I haven't had any really lengthy conversations or confrontations with people who think that I'm a Nazi or think that what I'm doing is bad. I've gotten a couple sideways glances. I've gotten a couple people trying to confirm, making sure that I'm not a Nazi and that I'm just a reenactor. Those are always interesting conversations to have with people, but I haven't had any sort of confrontation. I'm pretty sure people have walked away from conversations not convinced, and I'm pretty sure there's people out there who think that they actually met a Nazi dressed up as what they called a World War I German uniform. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that someone might have taken a picture of me because they thought I was a Nazi and they tried to spread that around. But it happens, and it sucks. So, the ways that I've really handled these situations was just to not really care. I don't go to the antique store that person works at and kind of owns. I just don't go there anymore because it just wasn't good. But yeah, those are my experiences getting called a Nazi or being compared to Nazis as just as bad as someone who is a Nazi. Thank you guys for watching this first sort of test of this style of video. Sort of a Q&A session. I don't really know what to call this yet. I can't really call it fireside chats because there's no fire to be beside. I could call it... No, wisdom chair has been taken. I'll figure that out. Anyway, if you really like my content and you want to continue supporting me, you can... If you really like my content and you want to see more of this type of stuff, you can view my other videos on my channel. If you want to stay up to date with what I'm going to be posting, you can go ahead and click subscribe and all that stuff. If you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. Send me feedback. And give me tips, give me corrections, or give me your complaints or your compliments in the comment section, and I will be sure to read them. I generally read every comment unless I'm absent. And yeah, if you want to support this channel, I do have a Patreon link in the description, as well as one to a Teespring shop with some cool shirts and mugs and whatnot with designs made by my older sister and by 1918 Doughboy. Links to my Instagram, my Discord channel, and my Twitch, which is brand new, are also in the description, so you can keep up with all the different shenanigans I do and ask me questions and post about your militaria and talk about history and these awesome communities. And it's definitely a community I'm trying to foster to build up for that. So again, thank you guys for watching. Soldat, the Saxon army needs your help. Join the Ersatz Infantry Regiment 23 today in order to push back the American advance in the Argonne Forest. The Ersatz Infantry Regiment 23 has been an avid supporter on Patreon for several months now, and I couldn't be prouder to give them this awesome shout out and bring some awareness to this brand new reenactment regiment. I definitely recommend you check them out. Link to the head of the regiment will be in the description as well for you to contact and get involved with the regiment if you're just starting out with the reenactment hobby. This regiment encompasses the entire United States and is brand new and looking for new members. Definitely consider joining them. Make sure to tell them that I sent you there.